Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is episode 5, and I am Joshua Peach, talking to you live from the McKimmon Center here at North Carolina State University. You're going to hear some noise probably in the background because we are in the conference center and they're moving some chairs around, but I wanted to get something out to you. I originally shared that my goal was to get something to you every Sunday, but my goal here is to give you good content every week, and sometimes that's going to be delayed by a day or two based on wanting a guest that fits or something's happening in my life that I think is important. And that's definitely somewhere where we're at today. Open with a story that not a lot of people know about, but about a year ago, I came up with a genius billion-dollar business idea. There's, I think, about 16 million elementary school kids in the United States today, and if you have elementary school kids, you know that every year you have a list from the teachers that say hand sanitizer, paper towels, supplies that the school and the town taxpayers don't cover that they need, and it's roughly $40 to $50 a student. So, and it's very rudimentary for the most part how they do that. So I came up with an idea to build a site that bulk purchasing could be had. A teacher could go online and actually put all the items needed or the total amount needed, and almost like a wedding registry. It's actually one of the 100+ domains that I bought is k12registry.com, but they could actually have drop ship their items sent to them. This was my idea. I, on a whim, bought 100+ domains. I started to kind of put together a business plan. I went through the first couple of months, and I didn't really talk to anybody or have anybody in my corner working with me on this. It was just kind of something that came to me, and I wanted to go with it. And after about 2 months of spare time working through this, I gave up and just let the domain sit. The reason why this is a valid story is all my domains are coming up for renewal, and I got the alert the other day and reminded me of this. But I gave up. I gave up for a couple of reasons. One, I wasn't passionate about what the idea was. It was just an idea for making money, basically. It does solve a problem, and if somebody goes out and makes $1 billion on it, and you want to send me a few bucks for the idea, that's great. If you want to buy one of my domain names that would make sense, I'll sell that to you at a reasonable rate too. But I wasn't really passionate about it. I didn't see where the difference could be made. And the big reason on that is I didn't have anybody either that reached out to me proactively that knew about it, or I didn't reach out to anybody to discuss my idea with them. You know, if someone had reached out to me, hey, let's say Santa Claus reached out to me, or I knew him, and he shared with me the homeless and foster kid statistics, where there's a very high percentage chance that every classroom in the United States has a homeless or foster child in that audience, and we could build this program so that we could alleviate some stress, because maybe some folks would pay more than $40 or $50 to cover those supplies. But someone that would be in my corner to kind of encourage me and drive the passion, or to drive that support, that might have made the difference. But I gave up, and it wasn't a failed effort. It was an effort that I kind of abandoned. And I tell that story today because I am down here in North Carolina at our company's sales meeting. This is my 15th. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that my 15th, my first sales meeting, there were 10 of us and 4 executives that did all the trainings and did all the seminars over the course of 5 days. Today we have over 240 people in the conference center at North Carolina State University, and we're flying in trainers and clients and market leader experts to help us. And I'm down here with a coworker, and his name's Brian Ondrako. He's actually with me here today. And the reason why I tell that story and I talk to you about kind of where this all is that in May, when I decided I was going to move forward with my book and didn't really tell a lot of people, I put a post on LinkedIn about a podcast training class that I took. And it just basically was a very simple snippet of, guess what I'm going to do. It was a suggestion that I start to do a podcast. I started to try to navigate and figure this stuff out. And within about 10 minutes, I got a phone call from Brian, who I barely even knew. And he told me about his podcast that he's doing, which is titled Just Get Started, and that he was willing to help. And through the course of a month and a half or so, nights, weekends, holidays, just about any free time that I had, I was calling Brian with probably the stupidest podcast questions. The setup, WordPress, which I don't even still know what the hell I'm supposed to do with that, blogs, descriptions, platforms, you name it, but all stuff that he knew. And he was always in my corner, and he was always supportive of me in helping me get to where I am today with my 5th episode. And I didn't really, by myself, I didn't think I'd get to a 2nd episode. Heck, I didn't think I could get a 1st episode. And so today's message is really about making sure that you have either people in your corner or that you're providing to be that person in the corner for someone. And it's one of those things that we often get caught up in life about what we're doing or how we're doing it, that we stop and don't look around enough to see who we can help. And you don't need to be a wildly successful business person. You don't need to have all sorts of money. You have to have a good heart, and you have to have purpose, and you have to have something that you can give back. Everybody has something they can give. And with Brian, he gave me his time. He gave me his knowledge. He gave me the fact that he was a couple exits ahead of me. You've done, 20 or so podcasts in the last 8 or 9 months, and he's got a really great system that he's put together. But make sure that you have those people in your camp, or you're in a camp that you're helping people. So, I want to have Brian here for a couple minutes, talk about what he's doing. I think that anybody that listens to my podcast should absolutely listen to his podcast. Again, it's titled Just Get Started. And what it is Brian, he hunts down people. It's actually listening to him. He has fun with this, but he finds people that have made incredible decisions in their life to do something maybe out of the norm, maybe something that was out of their comfort zone to get going, but they built an inertia and a movement to do something, and they tell their stories. And what he does from that is those people tell other people, hey, you got to get on this podcast and share your story. And he's built a pretty significant following with the Just Get Started movement. But I thought it was probably one of the most I question signs, but it's interesting that the first phone call I got when I was questioning whether or not to do a podcast with a simple post, the first call I got was from a guy that's got a podcast titled Just Get Started, and I really didn't know where to go with it. There's some excitement in the conference room right now, so we might actually leave and go to that party. But hey, Brian, thanks a lot for joining and sitting here. We're using a couple of conference chairs to hold the microphones and laptops here. But appreciate you joining.
Pete, it's awesome to be here, man.
Well, thank you. One of the things I want to ask is, what caused you to call me? Like, what was it that Saturday you looked on LinkedIn and you said, hey, let me give this guy a call. I talked to him once or twice, and let me offer to help. What was that? What did that for you?
Dude, I don't know. I think it's just something I think we all have as humans, probably. We want to help other people out, and especially if we have certain skills or certain things we've learned, we want to share that. It's something I think I always learned growing up. I had a great set of great family, but definitely around my grandparents. I always think of this stuff, like I think of my grandfather, my dad's father, and all these things he did around the community and church and stuff like that he was involved with, and always giving his time. I think it was just something I just learned growing up, that, hey, this is what you do. You help people out. And, again, I wasn't looking for anything in return. I wanted to help you out, man. Sure, it makes me feel good, right, when you help someone out. But I saw that you were trying to, start this podcast or potentially start it. So I was like, if I can give you a helping hand or at least guide you in the right direction. Because I know where I was when I started the podcast, I don't know. Yeah, about 9 months or so, but it was 2 or 3 years prior. I don't know if you and I ever talked about this, but 2 to 3 years prior where I was questioning, hey, I want to start this podcast, I want to do it. And I'll give kudos to a great guy, a great designer, a graphic designer, Adam Martin, out of Kentucky, but Makers of Sport. Go check out his podcast. We'll keep plugging people on this speech. But Adam, actually, I saw him at a conference a couple years in a row, and we kept talking, I'm going to start this podcast. And then I'd see him the next year, like, yeah, I'm going to start it, Adam. And then finally I was just like, dude, I'm starting it. And sure enough, a couple months later I did. So kudos to Adam for kind of, he's given me some, and similar to what I did to you, he sent me Probably a laundry list of things that I should check out, or the microphone, like we're using the Yeti mic here that I have, check out use a Yeti microphone as well as some other options. So I give kudos to Adam, and again, it's just that pay it forward thing. So that's really long-winded, but at the end of the day, yeah, I saw a person that wanted to do something, wanted to start an initiative for them. So hey, where can I help or give some breadcrumbs at least?
Yeah, and you gave a lot of breadcrumbs, and a huge part of my success, if I'll call it, because I think I counted on I think I wanted to count at least on one hand the number of listeners that I would hopefully have, you being one of them, my mom obviously, and my fiance, and my grandmother's 96. If somebody played it for her, she probably may or may not know it was me. But I had like 4 or 5 folks that I counted on, and it's been wild. It's been I've had hundreds of emails and texts and phone calls and 5 ratings on podcast channels, and all the while I've done everything probably ass backwards and upside down. But one thing I credit myself with is I did something, and I think that's one of the big things that I take from you is you got to do something. You got to get like you say, just get started. And one of the things from your podcast that I've been shouting at is you got to talk more, because you have a lot more story, but you give so much that you want the guests to really tell their story and share it with them and share with the world and give them opportunity. And that's an incredible trait in someone that we don't see enough of day in and day out. What you just shared is natural. It comes naturally to you to be a good person, to think, and thanks to your grandparents and your parents for carrying on that torch and continuing that. The challenge with folks is that sometimes they need a reminder of that. Sometimes they need to say, hey, someone needs help, let me help them. One of the terrible things that we see today is, something bad's happening, and instead of people picking up their hands and doing something, they're picking up their phones and recording something. And that's great. We need to have, video evidence of things. But when you're doing it at the purpose of the reason that that person that you're videotaping may get hurt, may not get help, may something, that's not really helping things. That see something, say something. Lots of times people turn a blind eye. I believe there's an innate trait in every person that if someone needs help, it's kind of like with work. That new person. The new person's walking down the hall. You don't want to bump them and basically tell them to beat it. You want to help them find where they're going. You want to get them to their office. That's that natural instinct that sometimes we lose, and you've got that wonderfully. What was it? You said you want to start 2 or 3 years ago, and you did that. When you got started with your podcast and you started kind of doing this going down this road, what was the reason for let's get started? Like, why did you name it that? Why did you come up with the way that you were doing things? Like, did you see that, there was a missing piece to it? Was it something you were just passionate about? What?
Yeah, part of it, just get started is, really the premise of what I believe in, that, a lot of people, and listen, this is something, and some people think I'm standing on the soapbox. Dude, I probably wasted my 20s where I had a lot of fun, and obviously started a family and stuff, and great. But when I say wasted, I mean I could have acquired a lot more knowledge. I could have talked to more people. I could have been out there more in communicating different ways, and just being a better human being probably. And so as I've kind of tailed into my 30s here, that was one of the things the last several years been figuring out. It's like, what am I not? I'm not doing things. I'm kind of sitting around. It's like the thing where I used to watch football from 1:00 until the end of the games. Whatever the 8:30 game gets over. I love football, love NFL, love my 49ers, but I was like, can I be doing other stuff with that time? And that's really what ultimately propelled me to say this whole just get started movement's around, like, there's other things that you can explore, and you don't actually know what you like or what you don't like until you start it. As an example, like I've been doing CrossFit for the last 6 months. Now, I'm probably part of the cult, you can call me that, but I love CrossFit now. But if I never got started doing that, I might not have known how much I loved it, or vice versa. I might have tried it and didn't like it as much. So I think the whole premise around the podcast is you have to try stuff. You have to be good out there, and it's okay to fail. It's okay to not to like something. It's okay to be different as well. Sometimes in society, I think we get in these buckets of like, you have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain person. You know, how are my neighbors or friends or colleagues going to look at me? And at the same time, you have to look inside and say, what's true to you? And that's ultimately for me. I said, you know what? It's kind of to take a Gary Vaynerchuk, for those that know him. You know, he had something to quote several years ago that I always stuck with me was, you don't need permission from anyone. And if you really believe that, hey, I can go out and do things and I can accomplish them. Gosh, I may fail. I may, you know, Edison took him 1,000 inventions until he got the light bulb. It's just a matter of how do I actually keep pushing forward and keep moving forward and saying, hey, I'm trying stuff, and it may work, it may not. But hey, do I like it? Do I not? Those are things that'll come in time. And even with the podcast I'm doing, I may find down the road that, God, I want to do something different. But you know, it's one of those things I had a passion around. Folks that haven't listened to it, Josh, I'm not going to go too deep, but folks that haven't listened to it know that, you know, back when I was in high school, one of the things that always tipped me off was a great teacher I had, Larry Hines, R.I.P. Larry, passed away from cancer about 10 years ago. But he always said to me, Brian, you have a tremendous radio voice. You should be on radio. You got great pitch and tone. And that always stayed with me over the years, and I had never done anything with it. And then as podcasting became popular, I enjoy talking with people and interviewing people. And I said, well, wait a minute, maybe this is all meshing into one area. Let's start this podcast. And that's a very long-winded, I think, answer or round of how the podcast kind of formulated. And like I said, I get to talk with some unbelievable people that some are just starting off in their careers. Others have started businesses, like Chip Conley that I just had on, who had a successful business for 24 years, one of the second largest hotel hospitality brand in the country, boutique. So folks like that and everyone in between. So I get to talk with all these cool people that I've never even knew existed, and really getting to interview them and seeing what they're all about. So
yeah, and you just hit on something that I think is unbelievably powerful. And I had a couple of interesting discussions in the last week, and one of the things that came up this week to me was I've had a number of people reach out to me, which please do reach out to me, Josh at BeAwesome, JOSH at BEAUSM.com. I'll say it again at the end, or LinkedIn or social media or my website or any of that. But I had a couple of people reach out to me, and one of the folks that reached out to me said, tell me about your business plan, or tell me about your business model. And I said, my business plan is pretty simple. It's in a notebook, and it says, Be Awesome Business Plan, make a damn difference. And we got into talking some more, and the damn difference is real simple. I just want people to do one small thing. Just do one small thing in your life that makes it just a little bit better. I'm not looking to fix the world. Tony Robbins does a phenomenal job. He touches millions of people a year, and he does life transformation and everything. I'm much smaller than that right now. I just want people to think about one thing they could do a little bit different, a little bit better, to make a difference in their day. And the conversation went on to, have you always been like this? Tell them, you've always been this person of, have you always been this perfect person or whatever? And I'm far from perfect. And you just said, I wasted my 20s, and here I am in my 30s, and figuring things out and listening more and meeting more people. It's really important for people to understand that it's never too late to start. And, if you've had a tough couple of years, or if you went through college and you got down on yourself, or you even went down a wrong path. I was talking about this with Lieutenant Bonnie last week. You can start today. You can start today wherever you are. Don't think it's too late, and to make a difference, and to just think just a little bit differently. Wake up tomorrow. If you've been upset and miserable, and this was the other thing, I had someone call me and tell me how miserable they were, which I'll take those calls all day long. They told me how miserable they were and how upset they were with their job, and it had been for 10 plus years, and I just said quit. I just quit. I can't be a therapist. I can't be a recruiter or HR or anything else. You're not in my company, so go ahead and quit. And they just kind of froze. And I said, quitting a job isn't failing. It's finding if you're miserable. Like, don't stay in that pattern for your whole life. Get out of it. The faster you can get out of that position of wasting time, of not finding purpose, of not getting passionate about something, the faster you do that, the more fulfilled you're going to be. I think you and I could agree Well, I know I can say I wasted my entire 20s. I definitely, I say I wasted, I had a lot of fun. I worked really hard, but I definitely wasn't looking at life in a way of purpose, passion, and fulfillment. I was looking at it as probably I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time, and probably part of my 30s. And it wasn't until having kids that and family and everything that goes with it, that I was like, wow, there's more to this than meets the eye, and the difference that we can make, and trying to touch just one person at a time, opposed to trying to fix the world.
If I could interject there on your thought, because this is one thing that really chapped my behind, because I hear this from folks, like, it's not over when you. I don't know what it is, and I think it's just the mentality of our society. Like, not many, and everyone's Mark Zuckerberg. You're not going to found $1 billion company when you're 24 or whatever. At the end of the day, you have to figure out that, hey, you know what? Like our 20s we're talking about, right? You have to go through those experiences maybe to get to that next step. And there's people that are probably maybe listening to this that are in their 40s or 50s. You're not over. Actually, if you look at life expectancy, you're probably going to live for another 40 years if you take care of yourself. So you almost have a whole nother life to live. So what are you going to do to make the difference or make it the best that you can? So again, going back to the just get started kind of thing, it's like, it's right to what you're saying. How do we actually find what we like, what we don't like, and be able to kind of dispel those, and then let's go after the stuff we like. And obviously that is going to, take care of our family potentially, but also, give us fulfillment. So again, I don't want everyone that's listening, you don't check out because you're 42 and you're
43.
Like, I wasn't talking about you, Pete, but but don't check out because you're in a job and you're like, hey, it's going okay, but I want more, but I don't know where to get more. Then go get it. Like, stop complaining and just go do it. And if you want to complain, that's fine. There's a group of those people that'll listen to that. But the reality is there's a whole bigger group that wants the positivity and wants you to actually go after it. So anyways, sorry to interject.
Yeah, no, that's great points. And that's the people that you're around is vitally important. I know that there was points in my life where I would listen to people that didn't, the reality of my momentum right now and the success that I've already achieved. And success for me is that I'm out of my comfort zone, that I'm doing a lot of different things, that I'm touching people that I haven't touched before, or people that I haven't heard from. I mean, I had a person we worked with that I haven't talked to in 5 years call me up and say, hey, thanks, keep going, keep, that encouragement, and shared a story with me, personal story with me that I didn't know. That's success for me. I mean, there's no monetization. I had someone call me and say, hey, let's figure out how to monetize your podcast, and let's try to figure out how to make this a money-making endeavor. And that's not my goal. Was to build my brand with the podcast. My goal was to send a message. My goal was to help in the writing of the book, and really get engagement with people that I hadn't gotten before, because as I said in the first podcast, I talk to lots of people, but there's so much more reach I can have with all of this. So the success of this has been phenomenal for me, and it's entirely because of the people that have been there. I have I have some business folks that are so far ahead of me down the road that are saying, hey, your simple podcast made a difference in our day, which then in turn makes a difference in hundreds of employees' days, which in turn makes a difference in families' lives. When you look at the exponential difference that the difference between having one right person and one wrong person in your life, it's huge. It magnifies by so much. And I know that I had people in my life at times that weren't in it to win it. They weren't in it to try to help me. They were Debbie Downers. They hadn't accomplished things. Like you coming to me with 15 podcasts at the time, a great name, and you do have a great radio voice, an obvious experience. Why the hell wouldn't I listen to you? Having a business person that's a successful author saying you need to write a book, why wouldn't I listen to that person? And listening to the right people, removing the noise and listening to the right people. And like you say, 42, 43, I'm 43 and I got a 7-month-old. And I just topped, I think, the oldest guy with a newborn, because it was Raf. He was 40 or 41. They just announced, so I have him beat. but it's never too late unless you let it be too late. And I think that's kind of the message that one of the messages we want to share here is, you can do whatever you want. Find the right people. Make the difference that you want to see in yourself. You got to dig deep for it. You got to find it. You got to have the people around you to do it. You have to be willing to listen. The biggest thing that I've had to do is be extremely open-minded and look for help, opposed to be kind of the know-it-all. When you're a public speaker, a lot of times people look to you to know everything or to be the market expert or whatever. And this is way out. I don't know anything. This is all learning experience. So having the right people to tell you the brutal truth. I give the example of you have somebody over for dinner and how many of you have friends that would actually tell you that the meal wasn't good, but you get so accustomed to making whatever it is, could be good, could be bad, and people are like, oh, this is great. Meanwhile, they're feeding it to your dog under the table. Having those people in your life that are going to be like, hey, Peach, that stunk. That was terrible. I've got 4 people that I'm going to send. The way my podcasts work, real simple. Don't edit, don't cut, don't do anything. I'm going to turn this into an MP3, send it off to 4 people. They'll listen to it typically within an hour. And if they all 4 say it's great or good or put it out, I put it out. If they say it's garbage, I retake it. Hopefully they say it's good, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to retake this with you, and I think we got some good stuff on it. But having those right people in place, and I really appreciate everything you've done for me, Brian. You've made an impact on me. You've made a difference in my life. It's been incredibly meaningful and positive. You're a big reason why the people that like my podcast can like my podcast, because I don't believe I would have done it otherwise. So
I appreciate that. What do they say? Your best friends. I'm gonna probably butcher the quote, but your best friends talk shit to your face and say nice things behind your back, right? So I think you have to have those people there.
Yeah, have as many of those as you can.
I appreciate you, like I said, just to be able to sit down here for a few minutes. And one last thing, just to get out, we're talking about a lot of this stuff around again, just get started or kind of motivating yourself. One thing I would just audit, and again, I'm not standing on the soapbox, but something I did, and I'd encourage others out there that maybe are saying, Brian, I don't have enough time. I'm doing. Audit your time. Just like if you were trying to, eat better, you would, you go talk to a nutritionist. They're going to say, hey, write down what you eat for 30 days, and let's look at all the different things and when you eat and all that. Do the same thing with your time. How often are you sitting and watching TV? How often are you just, you're playing Fortnite? Whatever, like, what are you doing with your time? And by the way, if that's what you want to do and it makes you happy, do it. I'm not here to tell you. Yeah. But if you want to do different things, audit that time and say, hey, if I take that hour of TV out at night, maybe I only watch for an hour, not 2. Well, what can I do with that extra hour? So those are some things, maybe just to think through it a little bit more, and you may find some time.
Yeah, find the minutes. Find the minutes you need, or accept the fact that you're not going to get it, and deal with it. Don't dwell on it. No, great points, great way to close up. They're doing some mic checks, so this timing couldn't be better. No Steve the Rooster, but Tony Butler up on the microphone, which Tony was one of the first people I did a podcast with, so shout out to Tony. But hey, be awesome, listeners. Thanks for listening. As always, you can find me at www.beawesome.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I did my first Twitter tweet. We're still working through which Instagram we're going to do. We got a lot of stuff happening. I appreciate people's patience and bearing with me on some of the stuff. We're working through some of the details on the shirts. We do have orders. We're going to fulfill them. We're just moving at light speed and doing things like podcast during lunch. We're condensing an hour lunch break into 10 minutes so we could put this on. Brian, thank you. Make sure you listen to the Just Get Started podcast. Subscribe to it. Make sure you give him 5 stars or 1 star, whatever stars you believe he should get. I think he's a 5-star all day long. Josh at beawesome.com. And remember, if you want to do awesome, you got to be awesome. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.